Good morning to all you lovely people, or afternoon if you're on the other side of the world. It's 7 o'clock here in the UK, and where I live it's nice and sunny and blue sky. Perfect morning for meditating. Might be a bit cooler in some of the other reaches of the world. I assume you can all hear me loud and clear. Good. Right response. Okay, it's 7 o'clock now, and so I'd just like to start. I'd just like to make a little correction to what I said yesterday. I'm not quite sure why I changed the first Satipatthana to Rupa, because actually it's Kaya. This is a normal word that the Theravadins use, but they both in a way kind of mean body in looking at it from slightly different ways. And so it's probably best if you don't remember Kaya, don't remember Rupa, and just remember Kaya, or just remember body, which is the easier one. And it's contemplation of the body, Kaya Nupassana. So that's what we were doing yesterday. And I think it's partly to do with the fact that when I think of body, I kind of go outside it and think of it as a lump, this kind of machine that is walking around. I see walking around other people. And I don't know, for some reason for me, the word Rupa is much more sort of, there's something more, there's something different about it. I can't really explain. Probably more to do with the Heart Sutra and form is only emptiness, something along those lines. Anyway, it was Kaya yesterday, and today it's Vedana. So there's basically the contemplation today is just about how you respond to experiences. So when we're sitting meditating, if we're focusing on something, so I would recommend in this practice that you constantly use your breathing as a kind of an anchor to your experience. That will firmly fix you or bring you to being in the present moment in the body. Some people don't even know what that means, but you don't need to know that, because if you're just focusing on breathing, you're nowhere else. You're just with your body experiences, because you can't really be aware of breathing unless you're experiencing breathing. So it's not like you're looking at yourself breathing from outside. And the whole point of these practices, as far as I'm concerned, is actually this kind of inner experience of what's happening. And it's kind of contemplation of what's happening without necessarily kind of conceptualizing and thinking it through. There will be thoughts, of course, that come into your mind. They're almost like vipakas. You've already done something that's going to cause a thought to pop up, but you don't have to make it into a karma, into an action by thinking it. So you have a thought, it's a thought, and as best you can, you let it go. And today we're going to be kind of focusing on the experience of whether something that we're doing brings with it a sense of pleasure or something that's unpleasant. So, for instance, if you were doing this practice on a retreat and you had been practicing, say, the mindfulness of breathing or the mindfulness of the body, the kaya nupassana, for some time, you might find yourself in a state of kind of rapture, pretty, or even sukha. So very, very pleasant state. And you may be doing this second Satipatthana, feeling, bliss. And that would be a very pleasant experience. And but you can get carried away with that, and you kind of can just sort of slot into it, and then the contemplation is lost somehow. But at the same time, it's really good to, if you do have that kind of pleasant experience, is to allow yourself to be steeped in it, so that you know you're, if you don't normally get this from meditation, you know that meditation then brings with it a sense of intense pleasure. So it's it's so easy to meditate if you know you're going to get intense pleasure. Of course, when you're expecting it, it never seems to happen, but it comes along with practice. And there's another way of looking at these Vedanas, and that is in terms of what are called worldly and unworldly. So it'd be like you're having an experience that's going to be kind of like more concretizing you in this world of samsara, of wanting things and fixing things and building yourself sort of identity solid and so on. And there will be the unworldly Vedanas, which kind of allows you to feel like you're, I don't know, floating free of that, if you like. Probably the easiest way of explaining this from an experiential point of view, one brings tightness, like that, and the other brings openness and expansion. And if you have that experience of openness and expansion, it's good to sort of recognize that. Don't get carried away by thinking, oh, great, I'm feeling bliss now, because that would be bringing you back to a slightly unworldly perspective. And just sit in it for a while and just recognize this is what you could call pleasant Vedana, and that's it. And later in the meditation practice, I might just suggest this, that you also begin to notice how thoughts arise, because the thought of, the Vedana often comes with a thought. We're trying to explain it to ourselves, communicate it to ourselves, what's happening from a direct experience of it. And thoughts don't just arise out of nothing. They're all part of praticca samutpada. They come about because of causes. And very often you may find, and this is what's suggested in the Anapanasati Sutta, is a lot of the thoughts that you have come about from sensations in the body. So it's a bit like being aware of the sensations in the body through the breathing, and then you will have, you will be able to kind of, as it were, categorize the experience into pleasant or unpleasant, or it's a kind of neutral, you're not sure where you are with it. It's just kind of, I always think if it's not unpleasant, it must be kind of mildly pleasant. So, I'm not sure whether neutral, if there is a real neutral state, but anyway, you can explore that for yourselves. So I'll just lead you through into the practice and then leave you again with your own experiences, and perhaps just remind you from time to time, just to check that you haven't wandered off somewhere and got lost. And if you find that slightly irritating me talking through it, you can always turn your speaker off and you're still with us, but hopefully it'll be helpful. And anyway, the good news about learning mindfulness, if someone does something you don't like, you go, unpleasant experience. So that's a kind of a plus, actually. So don't turn your speaker off, just be with the experience. Okay, got it. So let's do the Vedana Vipassana, the contemplation of the contemplation. It's called the contemplation of feelings. This word feelings seems to get changed by different people. And so it's actually whether your feeling is a pleasant one or an unpleasant one.
Shall I just say a couple of things just now, Sona?
Oh yeah,
we start.
Yeah. Can I just say I meant to ask Ben to say all this before I started. Carried away. So Ben's got something very important to say to you.
Yeah. Good morning, everyone. Well, a couple of things. Do send me a message in the chat if you're having any trouble with sound or anything like that. I understand that people were having a bit of trouble unmuting at the end last time, so I'll see what I can do about that. The other thing to say is a reminder that this is a Dana event, and if you if you feel a sort of appreciation for the meditations and Sona's time coming and teaching us all, do give if you can. Take what you need and give what you can, because over COVID, Adhisthana has been like many other institutions, organizations, been really affected, and they have people they support. So if you feel like you can give, then please do. That's all.
And presumably people go to the Adhisthana website and there's the donation button somewhere in there, isn't there?
Oh yeah, I'll put a few links in the chat at the end, and one of those will be a donation link.
Okay, wonderful. Thanks, Ben. Okay, so if you like to find your kind of spot, meditating. So we start off once again with the body, awareness of the body, paying attention to sensations in the body. And again, I find it quite useful to have a routine when I do this. So I usually start off with the sensation I feel most strongly almost always when I sit down, and that is having my bottom on a surface. In my case, it's fairly hard surface. And I'm not going to turn my mind to thinking whether it's pleasant or unpleasant at this moment. I'm just going to be aware of the sensation of sitting on my stool. And I'm going to kind of scan through my body and just becoming aware of the whole body. It's a very good way of getting ourselves sort of away from the area we associate with thinking. So most people, we all believe we think in our head. That seems to be what science says. But if we experience our bottom, our legs, knees, ankles, feet, we don't need to think about them. We can actually have a direct experience of them. And this is what I feel we're looking for in the practice of developing mindfulness, is knowing how to pay attention to things as they are in the present moment, not how they should be or how they could be, but actually what is happening right now in this part of my body. So you could move your attention down your legs, your thighs. So in my case, I can feel tension in my thighs. It's still a little tight. and a slight tension in the knees. And what's so interesting about mindfulness is when you start paying attention to the body, it's sometimes the sensations start changing. So gradually I notice in my thighs are softening, the knees are, there's the tension in the knees is sort of dissipating. And there's a kind of strange sensation in my feet. It's difficult to describe it really. And I'm just telling you what I'm experiencing to give you some sort of hints, different ways of paying attention to your body if you need them. But I notice my feet are quite warm, but they're not hot, comfortably warm. And in a way, my whole lower body feels okay. It's not completely comfortable, but it's not going to. I don't need to adjust my lower body to make myself more comfortable. Or maybe I do. I just make a small adjustment. I can settle into it more. And the upper body's interesting too, because it tells us where we may be holding tension, tightness, kind of, which eventually you could call an unworldly Vedana. And this may come from some background mental activity of anxiety. And you may feel this in your abdominal region. Ideally, the abdominal region is sort of soft. Your clothing isn't tight there, just it moves as you breathe, and it's nice to have that freedom in the body. And I like to kind of remember that I'm meditating, and ideally I'm finding a kind of aligned, balanced position of the upper body, which means that my muscles, the muscles that move me, are no longer having to do very much work. The weight of my body is being transmitted through my skeletal frame, which allows me to sort of settle more. And checking my shoulders and arms, how they feel. There's so many interesting little tingling sensations here and there. And then checking that the head is well balanced, so it's so heavy. And when it's well balanced, it may bring with it a sense of alertness, of relaxation, but alertness, the two together, kind of conjoined. And then experiencing the body's non-stop movement, the movement of the breath, of the respiratory system functioning, the sensation of air flowing into the body and flowing out. So what we can do now is we can just go around the body again and become aware of sensations in it, and then just contemplate whether a particular sensation is pleasant or unpleasant, if it's tight or if it's opening. For instance, often it's easy to feel the tightness in the body, but maybe an indicator of openness might be that I feel like smiling at the moment, which means my muscles are kind of softening in the face. A sense of joy being here, breathing with you all, practicing. And if this joy comes, we allow ourselves to let it be there, enjoy it, kind of focus on it, but not cling to it. Otherwise it will become tight. So if you get lost, just come back to your breathing and then move back again into whether the sensations, just contemplating without thinking too much. Oh yes, pleasant sensation. That one's an unpleasant sensation. And if you're someone who has a lot of pain in their body, which increasingly happens as we grow older, you may have a condition, it just may be our body aches this day, then it's good to have a kind of compassionate attitude towards that part of the body, accepting it hurts. And we don't have to over focus on it, but usually pain is a way of calling attention to something that's wrong in the body, although some people have chronic pain, which is a different system working. But just accepting that's what's happening, and it's unpleasant. But there are lots of other sensations happening in the body as well, so you don't have to over focus on the unpleasant. Bring usually a sense of tightness with it. You're not pushing it away, letting it be there, and just opening up to the more, what we could call pleasant sensations. And quite a lot of the sensations you may just feel are neutral feelings. And just lastly, you may notice if you start thinking about something from the past or the future, some worry, this will create feelings in the body, sensations in the body, and that feeling will be probably unpleasant, or if you were thinking about something you enjoy doing or going to do. That would be pleasant. And just keep coming back to the actual experience, the feeling that you get from the sensation. That's what this practice is all about today. So if you find you're a little bit of a thinker, lots of thoughts going on, then see if you can pay attention to whether a thought is a pleasant thought or an unpleasant thought. Or alternatively, or at the same time, you could also check if a thought is affecting your body. So for instance, if you have a thought about your dog, if you've got a dog, or you should have a dog, does that kind of make you tense somewhere in the body or make you more open in the body? Is it a pleasant thought about the dog or an unpleasant thought about the dog, for instance? So you have lots of different thoughts popping in. And you can use those thoughts to contemplate the Vedana that comes with it. But if you link it to your breathing, back to the body, you may find you're not just prolonging that initial thought into a whole thinking process about something. You get carried away somewhere else. So coming back to the present with the breath. And one of the things that one learns from doing the Anapanasati meditations, where you're using the breath the whole way through, is that breathing brings with it a sense of calmness, peacefulness, openness. The focusing, paying attention to your breath, the feelings of breathing can be extremely pleasant. And they would be a pleasant Vedana, maybe an unworldly Vedana. You can just sit in it with your breathing. And this would be a way of leading you into through access concentration into a more dhyana-like state. But again, you're just trying to maintain awareness, paying attention to what's happening, even when you're really enjoying sitting, breathing. And if that's not happening to you, then you can just pay attention to the unpleasant that's happening, or maybe you have pleasant thoughts. It's a kind of win-win situation with mindfulness, so long as you know what's happening. So just to remind you that we're contemplating the Vedana, the feeling that's either pleasant or unpleasant or somewhere between. Whatever we're experiencing at this moment, physical, mental. And just allowing ourselves to be moved towards the more open, less contracted experience, the unworldly. And it may be useful now towards this end of this practice is that practicing mindfulness in this way can be a bit interned, where we become a little precious about our experience. So we could turn outwards and maybe drop in the thought that there's quite a few of us, I don't know how many, probably 40 or something of us practicing today, at this moment, right now, across the world. And let that thought just drop in and see if it's a pleasant thought, if it opens you. We kind of join together, we're all breathing. We've probably all got little thoughts coming and going. Some of us may have what you could call emotionally charged thoughts that are a bit dominant. Some will be a bit tired, a bit sleepy, others more alert. We're all doing this together. We're all part of the Sangha. It's like just one body breathing. How does that feel? Being you, being me, but being part of something much bigger. Just breathing together. And this may bring with it a sense of joy. Maybe could have called that joy love or metta, maitri, well-wishing. Just lastly, you can just check whether the sound of the bell brought with it a pleasant sensation or a slight unpleasant sensation. And it may be good to remember that practice of mindfulness isn't something we do just sitting on the cushion in sessions like this, but ideally we try to remember throughout the day to become aware of how we're feeling, particularly at those moments when we have strong feelings, maybe get irritated or annoyed with someone. You could just remind yourself, oh, there's a Vedana here. Is it pleasant or unpleasant? And you'd probably say it's unpleasant. Sometimes being annoyed with someone can feel pleasant because you're perhaps frustrated and it's releasing. So whatever it is, you can just become more and more mindful of it. And your experience of life starts to change, doesn't it? So sort of focused on getting things to happen in the way you want them to, and kind of become a bit less important in a way and part of everything. So you've got the rest of the evening or the rest of the day, wherever you are, doing that. And just lastly, I'd like to suggest you have a little drop in this thought of the donation. Is that a pleasant thought or an unpleasant thought to see? If you actually move your hands to your computer and go find the browser and go to the website and click on a few buttons and move some numbers around, and you know that Adhisthana is going to benefit from this, is that a pleasant sensation, or did you feel some resistance? Was it worldly or unworldly? And if you don't want to do that and you feeling like I ought to be doing that, just ask yourself, well, it doesn't really matter whether you give or not. It's your money, but it's really good just to be aware of whatever happens, whether it's pleasant or unpleasant. And so, yeah, I just like to thank you all for being here. Really enjoyed this morning's session with you. And tomorrow we'll be looking at the next, my brain's not working now, the next contemplation, the Chittanupassana contemplation of mental events or thoughts. So go well, and I'll see you tomorrow. You can unmute people now if you know how to, Ben, and I suppose I can. And just see actually who's here.
Many thanks, Sona from Vimoksha.
Thank
you. Thank you, Sona. Thank you.
Oh, Caroline.
Thanks, Sona.
Pleasure.
Thank you.
Nice to see you.
Thank you, Sona.
Thank you.
Thank you, Sona.
Thanks, Sona.
Thank you. Oh, I'm having lots of pleasant Vedanas.
Thanks very much, Sona. Thank you, Ben. Have a good day.
Thank you.
Thank you, Sona.
Very much. Enjoy your day.